Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings, the show where a man talks about things. Welcome. Welcome, one and all. For those who are new here, and for those who aren't, this is Fleet's Random Ramblings, the show where I, Fleet of Oceans, answer your questions to the best of my ability. And now I will remind the audience, for those who are unaware, I am not Drakenifel. I am nowhere near as knowledgeable as he, and I am nowhere near as skilled as he. But I like to think that I give things a good crack and a good shake. So, let's see how we get on, I suppose. Wow. Oh, Caboose is here. That's odd. Oh, he's probably listening from work, which is awfully nice. Oh, wow, a lot of you today. Welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings, everybody. Awfully nice of you to come on down. Oh, at work. Yeah, I thought as much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings, the weekly show where I, Fleet, also known as Discount Drakenifel Poundland Track, insert low-cost store plus Drakenifel analogy here, attempts to answer your questions about naval history, pop culture, other history in general, or anything you can think of that doesn't fly outside of server rules. This week is a special week, and this is the first of two ramblings this week. There's your normally scheduled ramblings, and then, on Thursday, we've got Fleet's birthday ramblings. Which I hope you'll all come round for and enjoy. So, without further ado, and with all the pomp and circumstance that this august organization demands, let's get cracking. You may now begin asking me certain questions, should you wish to. Anything you like, as long as it falls within server rules. Feel free to ask away. Been dying to ask Drac a question, but haven't quite gotten it answered yet? Ask me. I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. I can't promise, but I shall try. Got some new people who've showed up, which is awfully nice. Wow, no one's asking questions. Have you all run out of questions to ask? That's unusual. It's unlike the people of the server to not have any questions to ask. It's very unusual. Why did American battleships have thicker barbettes than other nations? Well, it depends from ship to ship. Some did, some didn't. But basically, it's down to the idea that the simple logic that you don't want your barbette to get penetrated. As if your barbette gets penetrated, things go badly for you. You watch. Because a penetrated barbette usually means a rather explosive demise for that turret, if not the ship itself. And the Americans wanted to avoid that. But aside from that, I don't think there was a specific reason as to why. Like, no specific doctrinal requirement. The US just like thick barbettes. Which is no bad thing, in all honesty. If we're going to be honest here. British Battlecruiser Syndrome was mostly down to ammunition handling. 99% ammo handling practice. We know this because of HMS Tiger's experience at Jutland. HMS Tiger was new to the fleet and had not been indoctrinated into the bad ammo handling practice of the battlecruiser fleet yet. And as such, even though she was thoroughly battered at Jutland, she came out fine. She took hits in places that other battlecruisers did and exploded, but she didn't suffer at all. Did naval commanders commonly use conning towers? It varied. Varied according to doctrine and tradition and personal preference. Zoological Gopher asks, obviously the all-forward arrangement of the Nelsons was to fit within the treaty. What was the potential for keeping an all-forward main battery going forward with future designs, e.g. an all-forward Vanguard? I think there's a reason why we don't see a return to all-forward ships when the treaty system, when the building holiday ends in the mid-30s, because metallurgy, weight-saving measures have advanced to a point where the benefits of, well, apart from the French, but the return to all forward was obviously the French desiring to squeeze as much out of their ships as possible, but the British were more concerned with building a, well, British and the Americans, Japanese. There are concessions to make with an all-forward design, and everyone except the French decided those concessions were not worth making. With Drax's video on the repair of the damaged battleships of Pearl, would it be possible to rearm them with 16-inch? Yes, in theory you could. Because let us not forget that the Colorados are basically just a repeat of the previous standard, with the 1414s swapped out for twin 16. It is in theory possible to do it, but why would you? The reason I say that is because you're bringing these battleships back into active service. You've got fast battleships coming down the line. These battleships are no longer the main striking arm of your force. If any battleships are going to be doing the battleship on battleship fighting, it's going to be the fast battleships. And if you're fighting the older battleships of the Imperial Japanese Navy, your 14-inch is going to kill them just as hard as the 16-inch will. Just as easily, just as effectively. So, with that, when all that was weighed up, the extra time and cost of doing it made no sense. So they stuck with the 14s. It would have also required a new set of design drawings. Because while the Colorado showed that you could do it, in order to pull it off on the previous designs of standards, you'd have to do new design drawings for each ship, basically. And that's that's time expenditure plus cost expenditure that the US doesn't have. And can't afford to put down, in essence. They physically can't afford the expenditure. Because they need those ships back out. In some of the earliest marine landings of the Pacific War, some of the early island campaigns, in terms of some of the early island campaigns, bombardment support from a standard or a pair of standards was quite crucial to some of those campaigns being carried off. Broke up more than a few Banzai charges. What happened to Gneisenau's other turrets? I don't know. If you want the honest answer, I have no idea. Was the split design of the French quad turret any better than the full open quad of the KGVs? It's horses for courses, basically. Once they managed to iron out some of the kinks of the KGV's turrets, they were very effective. But it is worth noting that the French split quads had less teething troubles than the KGV's turrets did. I will also point out, however, that all quad turrets were new technology that hadn't gone to sea on any warship. They wouldn't have been had the French taken them to sea in the 1910s and 20s, had World War II not happened, but unfortunately, no quad turret went to sea until the Dunkirk and Strasbourg sailed. So, there you are. Given how inefficient Kriegsmarine battleships were, why didn't they use World War I's like the Mackenson's I-20s and Ersatz Yorks? Did they not have access to those plans? Well, yes, but those are ships from a previous era. They are completely unsuitable as new builds for the modern stage of warfare. They're also not the ships Germany needs. Germany needs effective, fast capital ships. A 28-knot battlecruiser does them no good, even if you warm it up. They also didn't have the guns for those ships anymore. There's a reason why they worked up a new 15-inch gun for Bismarck. Because the old ones they'd both lost the plans for and couldn't forge new ones for. The only guns they had were those that were stored away, and they weren't... The Scharnhorst were effective. Bismarck killed Hood, you can't deny that. But the Kriegsmarine's battleships were the most modern and did some of the most fighting of any Axis battle line in terms of actual effectiveness versus before they were killed. Yeah, yes, Hood, I know, and Alaska could technically kill Hood. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's nothing... Well, there's a lot wrong with the Kriegsmarine's capital ship designs, but it's also understandable why they were built the way they were. It doesn't mean they couldn't have been better, but they could have been worse. I mean, we never got to see what Tirpitz in her final. We never got to see what Tirpitz in her final form could do. That would have been an interesting fight. It would have been interesting to see what would have been a better use of materials: 4 Bismarcks or 4 Scharnhorsts. 4 Scharnhorsts easily. Cost less to build. Is a marginally better design than Bismarck in terms of efficiency, and frees up additional steel earlier for use in perhaps building replacement destroyers for the Kriegsmarine after the disaster of Narvik, and also building additional U-boats earlier. An additional pair of Scharnhorst is a massively better use of resources. Would I have kept the 11-inch rifles? Oh no, there's no reason to not go with the 15s for the second pair. No reason at all. If you're building a second pair of Scharnhorsts, build them with 15s. Or hell, build my Scharnmarks, which is basically just a Scharnhorst extended with the hull length extended to accommodate a 4th barbette, super firing over the rear barbette. And then slot 4 15s into that and call it quits. That's a better ship than Bismarck. Why did Stalin want 15 Soviets to use battleships? seems a bit overkill when your ports are frozen in winter. Well, because he wanted to be a world-class navy. He wanted the Soviet Union to be a world-class naval power, respected and taken seriously by the rest of the naval powers of the world. And since he wasn't bound by treaty, he thought he could get it. Now, in any realistic world, he's not going to get 15. He's probably going to get about 4 to 5. 2 for the Baltic, 2 for the Black Sea, 1 for the Black Sea, and 2 for the Pacific. 2 for the Northern Fleet, most likely. Since the Soviets never based, until the end of the Cold War, capital ships or heavy units in the Pacific. So you're looking at 1 Soviet in the Black Sea, 2 in the Baltic, and 2 in the Northern Fleet. And a smattering of Kronstadts or Stalingrads, depending on this is post or pre-war, or no World War II, to act as their fast, heavy fleet scouts. But again, he wanted them for the same reason that Hitler wanted a large fleet. He wanted to contest the oceans against the powers of democracy, or just anyone that wasn't Russia. Where was I? Let me have a look. Where are we at? Chat keeps jumping around like a headless chicken. Would a full set of Admiralty class have made any difference had they all made it to World War II? Absolutely. You've now got 4 fast, 30-knot, reasonably well-armoured capital ships running around, basically solving all of the Royal Navy's problems. It's kind of ridiculous how much of a difference that would have made. Especially since they would have probably replaced the QEs as the Royal Navy's poster-child ships through the interwar period, and would have been first in line for the upgrades. Probably 2 Admiral class going in place of the Renown and Queen Elizabeth, and then another 2 going in later on. Or perhaps not, as when war breaks out. But yeah, massive difference. You've now got 4... Yeah. Well, first off, you're not getting the Nelsons, so you have to remove the Nelsons from that. If you've somehow... Okay, if in a timeline where you've somehow kept the Nelsons, congratulations, the Royal Navy is now just the most powerful fleet on the planet again, well done. But in any halfway realistic timeline, no, the Royal Navy will have to not build any 16-inch capital ships, and will have to say our big 3 are 3 admirals. Hood, Anson, and Howe probably is the most likely names for the 3, which will be what the Royal Navy has. They'll have these 3 big ships. And you'll probably see 2 of them going for rebuild, and 1 will probably not get rebuilt prior to the war. But again, that's not really what the question was about, but yeah, there you are. It makes a massive difference, because the Royal Navy's now got a bunch of modern 30-knot capital ships to start running around putting out naval fires all across the globe, e.g. Mers el Kabir, Norway, all that jazz. Oh, excuse me, folks. I am a little bit under the weather today, but I am keeping myself going because the ramblings must always go on. I've never missed a ramblings yet. I'm not starting now. Let's see, what else have we got? If you scrapped Nelsons in the place of more admirals, was there any room in the designs to be upgraded to 16s? No. The only way you're getting a large number of admirals out in time for them to be in service by Washington is if you build repeat hoods. You can't fiddle with the design, you can't change the design, you can't touch the design. You have to lay steel down on the slips immediately if you're making that decision. Which means you have no room to tinker with the design, you have to build repeat hoods. Officer AN asks, were the Kriegsmarine losses at Norway due to bad luck, incompetence, or a combination of both? I don't think you can call the Kriegsmarine actions off Norway incompetent. They managed to catch and sink the Carrier Glorious. Scharnhorst and Gunneisen now quite prudently withdrew from Renown, which was the right thing to do. And the British destroyers came out of bad weather and caught a bunch of German destroyers at anchor in Narvik, with their boilers cold and their crews on side. So the Kriegsmarine can't be called incompetent at Norway. There was a lot of bad luck involved on the German side, and a lot of good luck as well on the German side, it has to be said. The Norwegian campaign can be called the Kriegsmarine's finest hour, but also its worst defeat, because they never recovered from the lost destroyers. The war build programs were never able to replace those losses. That's the way it is. It's one of those campaigns that's studied a lot, but navally it comes down to basically, well, how do I describe it? One side is committing all of its forces, the other side is committing whatever it can really spare at this particular moment. So the British, you have a bunch of older destroyers, Renown that's up there already. Yeah, basically, for the Germans, it's why didn't the Allies in World War II try to do the Fisher Baltic project? Let me think. Well, first off, the only time that they can possibly do this is prior to the invasion of Norway. Because beyond that point, the Germans own all entrances to the Baltic. And even at that point, attempting to come with a large force round Denmark and land troops in the Baltic is asking for that force to get the attention of every U-boat, heavy surface unit, and aircraft that Germany possesses in the local area. It's a suicide mission. At least in World War I, you could rely on low visibility, lack of radar, and overwhelming British strength to carry off a Baltic Plan-style operation. In World War II, it's just a non-starter. That's the way it is. Which was a better design overall? The Lions, the Iowas, the Alsaces, or the H-Class? Well, the H-Class is out of the running basically from the start, as being outgrowths of Bismarck and full of all the inefficiencies and horrors of German shipbuilding. That leaves us with the Lions, the Iowas, and the Alsaces. The Iowas are good, fast capital ships, but they're not well-rounded. They have kept the previous design's armour, but upped themselves to a 16-inch 50 that their own belt can't protect them against. So, that means the Iowas are basically out of the running in terms of well-rounded capital ships. Then that leaves the Lions and the Alsaces. But those two were paper ships and were never actually built. So we don't know how well they would have performed. So I'm going to present to you that the best design battleship out of that mix you've given me is one that's not actually listed there, which is an outgrowth of the Lion concept that actually did get built, Vanguard. Vanguard is the better design out of all of those. She might have older guns than the Iowas, but she's a much more well-rounded ship that's not that much slower than them. Could the 4 Iowas survive the aircraft swarm that Yamato faced during Tengo? No battleship can survive the swarm that Yamato faced during Tengo. No selection of battleships could survive the swarm of aircraft that Yamato got swamped with. The Iowas have a less capability to take damage than Iowa does. Sorry, the Iowas have... The 4 Iowas combined, while they may have more firepower, have less capability to absorb the sort of damage that Yamato can. Simply because of their sheer fucking mass and armor. Whereas the Iowas, bless their hearts, have rather good air defense, they're not as tough as the Yamato is. Vanguard's guns might be older, but they're not much less capable. Vanguard versus Iowa is a coin flip. Take your choice. It's a 50-50 coin flip, basically. Both ships can hurt each other. Both ships are equivalent speed. Vanguard's got slightly better armor, so she's got a limited immunity zone to Vanguard's primary battery at long range. Thanks to the improvements to the turret mountings, plus increased elevation, plus superchargers, their range is actually equivalent. Vanguard's firing the most modern 15-inch rounds the Royal Navy ever developed. The last batch of rounds that were developed for the QEs and the Avengers prior to the end of the Second World War. Not quite as good as the 16-inch 50 with its super heavy rounds, but good enough to start to damage Iowa if it hits her. Like I say, it's a 50-50. It's a 50-50 matchup. Iowa's got speed, about 2 knot advantage, but Vanguard has the armor, with a slight immunity zone to Iowa's guns at the longest ranges of the engagements. But as in any 1v1, as I say, radar's about the same across both ships at the period we're talking about, where they're both in service. And as was proven in a shoot where Vanguard and Iowa were shooting at a target in exercises off Malta, Vanguard's the better gunnery ship. But again, that doesn't really matter much overall, simply down to the fact that we don't know what she would have... Like I say, it's like any of these 1v1s. Flip a coin and take whatever outcome you think would be right. Because we have no way of knowing without actually running 100,000 1v1s. Vanguard's belt armor is significantly better than Iowa's. Vanguard's got 2 additional inches of belt armor. And that 2 inches makes all the difference. How close were Altendorf's battleships when Kurita decided to turn back at Samar? Yeah, but Vanguard isn't sloped much. Yeah, but... Okay, Iowa has a heavily sloped belt. Now let me ask you something. So, you've sloped Iowa's belt, okay? That's fine. If the shell's coming in flat at point-blank range, in a normal battleships engagement, they won't be. When that shell reaches that sloped belt armor, it's likely that the impact is going to basically make the sloping be flat against the incoming shell. If we're talking long-range combat, sloped outwards. Oh. I'm thinking of Turtleback. Oh, that kind of sloping. I mean, that'll help her, but it's not making up for the fact that her armor's 2 inches less thick than Vanguard's is. It's helpful, but it's not going to stop a 15-inch shell. Yeah, completely caboose, but Vanguard's also going to go through Iowa's deck. Both ships can hurt each other. Both ships can hurt each other, both ships can kill each other. I'm not sure. Maybe she will, but then again, the reverse is also true. If Iowa has an immunity zone against the 15-inch, then Vanguard also has an immunity zone against the 16-inch 50. But we're talking extreme range for both ships. If they choose to close, they'll both lose their immunity zones. At probably about the same time, if we're going to be honest. It's a 50-50 coin flip. Yep, Iowa does have 1 extra gun, so that's 1 extra round every salvo. So that counts in her favour. But I still think that the best outcome is a 50-50. Both ships have a reasonable chance of winning it. And there's no reason why either... Basically, it's both ships' fight to lose. The person who loses is going to be the crew that makes a mistake or messes up drill, etc., etc. in that fight. It's both vessels' fight to lose. They both have the capability to kill each other. Rate of fire when it comes to battleship engagements is not as much of a factor as you think. Because you can only fire as fast as you can you can only fire as fast as you can accurately lay the guns onto target, and both ships are roughly equivalent in that. So rate of fire isn't affecting this at all, basically. In terms of who's going to hit first, again, it's a 50. It's going to come down to the gunnery crews aboard. And if we're assuming equal crews, that is a coin flip. Iowa and Vanguard have pretty much equivalent, if not identical, fire control and radar fits. Both ships are extremely good platforms for heavy gunnery. They're both just extremely capable ships. And we can't take that away from either design. When I say Vanguard's better than Iowa, it's not by much. Just a few little things here and there, but it's basically splitting hairs. They're both extremely capable warships. Sea Lightning. I hate that. I hate the concept of a rotary engined Lightning. That that hurts me. That hurts me. No, Lightnings have inline engines. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. You don't have rotary engined Lightnings. No, no. I hate it. Hmm. Uh... the idea for a kit bash. How close were Altendorf battleships when Krita decided to turn back at Samar? Well, basically, not close at all. There was... They weren't close at all. Altendorf was a good... he wasn't close, is what I'm aware of. It's the reason why, if Taffy 3 had failed to stop Center Force, they would have gotten through to the landings. They would have done the work they were there to do. Altendorf couldn't have even reached the landings before Center Force decided to withdraw if they'd have reached the landings. Never mind reaching Taffy 3. What is that? A MiG-21 that can't fly? He's got no air intake. Good lord. It's a glider? God damn it. People come up with the strangest things. Right. The Spitfire car. Oh, Vismod for the film Spectral. Mock-up of a US... Definitely not a nuclear-capable Ontos. I hate that concept is both viable and hilarious. Do you see that Warsaw Pact division? Yes. I no longer wish to see that Warsaw Pact division. Blanket barrage them. The Ontos was the funny vehicle. Seriously. The Ontos was just funny. Even without the Davy Crockett meme of it, it's still funny. Oh, dear. Oh. You know, That's funny. That's very, very funny. Did you know the Soviets lost a war to Albania? How did the Soviet Union lose a war to Albania? That seems... I mean, I know the Soviets lose wars all the time, but... Oh, that's when they seized the naval base. Yes, now I remember. The Soviets just walked away. Oh, the Mirage G. Yeah, that was a thing that existed. Hmm. Now, where did I put that? Anyone got any more questions to ask? Can anyone else hear me all right? Am I coming through okay? Atlantic Toast Line. That's hilarious. When you... well... Okay, that's good. I'm still coming through okay, and that's something, I guess. Atlantic Toast Line. Love it. Love it. All toasters toast toast. Heavy lift launch vehicle. Could the US and Britain develop the 18-inch more? What kind of ship designs would we see? In what context? Can you clarify that? Because the answer will change depending on if you mean after the treaties, during the Second World War, if there is no treaty. Which of those contexts is it? Because my answer will change depending on which of those you mean. Hmm. There we go. Excuse me. Can we ride the aero train? Oh, that's funny. That's very funny. Little model paddle steamer. That's very, very funny. That's adorable. I love that. That's some Last of the Summer Wine shit right there. That is. Before and after World War One. Okay, so Britain can. We know where this was going in the form of the N3 battleships. It's likely that the follow-on to the N3s would have been a design with 12 18-inch guns, and the follow-on to the G3s would have had 9 18-inch weapons instead of 9 16s. This is highly likely. As for the US was planning, once they'd built the South Dakota 1920s, to have a follow-on that was basically the same ship, but with 8 18-inch guns instead of 12 16s. And again, the Lexingtons would have likely have had a follow-on that would have been the same as them, maybe with some slight alterations to armor scheme, carrying 8 18-inch guns on a battlecruiser hull. After the treaties, During the treaties for the US, they had no plans to work on an 18-inch capital ship. Their designs were either 16 or 14-inch vessels. Post-treaty, the US considered working on an 18-inch capital ship during one of their build-outs. There were several considerations for the Iowa to have an Iowa or an Iowa adjacent, or the Montanas to have 18s. But it was decided against it because A, the US didn't have a modern 18-inch rifle. They would have to go back into their older designs, which was not something they would prefer to do. They'd prefer to have a modern rifle, which they didn't have yet. They'd have to basically upscale a 16, and that would take time. And so they preferred instead to just stick with a better 16-inch, which, as we all know, became the 16-inch 50 of World War II fame, that was mounted on the Iowas and proved to be a superb gun. Ah, good, Archon. You love to see it. That's what we like best. Excuse me. Oh. Excuse me. Ugh. Oh, bloody hell, I don't know what's up with me today. I shouldn't be this tired, I had a good night's skip. Ugh. If I could change anything about the naval treaties, what would it be? Nothing really. They were pretty much perfect for doing their job that they were built to do. E.g., keep the peace, prevent a naval arms race. And I can't improve them. They succeeded in that. There's very little that I can do to improve them. In fact, there's nothing. Multiple different teams of negotiators carved out something that was incredibly well balanced, and while it wasn't what everybody wanted, it was something everyone could accept, which is not something you get very often when it comes to disarmament treaties. We might have gotten bigger battleships. Yeah, we might have done. But then we also would have gotten a horrific war in the 30s between Britain, America, and Japan that would have completely rewritten history as we know it. And I much prefer having history as it is now, thanks. Oh, look at the little M1s. The US not having tanks. I suppose. I mean, compared to what we could have had, our current timeline is not that bad, comparatively. I can think of it being far worse. Is it perfect? God, no. Is it better than most any other alternative that I can think of? Yeah, pretty much. Everyone forgets that alternate history is not... Well, Anyone can make up an alternate history timeline. Anyone can say, what if X is Y and Y is X? George Orwell did have a point there. George Orwell had an excellent point there. So true. A good alt history timeline shows a world in which it's a different timeline, but it's not a victory for one side timeline, for example. So, TNO, for example, the Hoi 4 mod, shows a world in which the Nazis won the Second World War. And everything literally fell to bits afterwards because, well, it's the Third Reich. What were you expecting? It's not perfect. There are many things wrong with it. But it's definitely one of the more realistic attempts to create alternate history. Same thing with the Kaiserreich team. They've tried their best to create an alternate timeline that you can believe in, but that also doesn't come off as a worship of one side or another. I mean, even I've dabbled in alternate history here and there. Spoiler alert, there is a final video on a certain timeline on its way that myself and some fellow Ramblings enjoyers are working on. So keep on the lookout for that. That'll be coming soon to a Ramblings near you, and will then be uploaded on YouTube. But that's not for a while yet. We're currently working on fleshing out the final details of it, and it will just be a bit of fun. We're not taking it entirely seriously, and it's not going to be entirely realistic, but it'll be something quite nice. Oh yes, of course, Deathstick Wednesday. Mustn't forget that. Oh. That's what I was talking about, Sea Dodders. What else would I possibly be talking about? Considering the Brewers and British were looking at 16-inch armoured vessels in the mid to late 50s, what were the French looking at? I know they had the issue of limited dry dock space, but they ever draw up designs for anything with 16-inch caliber weapons? So far as I'm aware, all of the capital ships that had their designs firmly locked in used France's excellent 15-inch gun. I don't believe the French had any designs to go beyond the 15-inch gun. Maybe had the war not happened, and had the battleship age lasted longer, we might have seen some French ships with 16-inch weapons. But from what I'm aware of, any designs they were working on were all 15-inch, I believe, albeit 15-inch in various different forms. But they were still 15-inch guns all the same. I occasionally need to think, gents. If I stop talking for a minute, I'll lose. It's because the brain cogs in my gear are working. All right, so I'm moving Moving on then swiftly to the next question. It's quiet ramblings today. Really quite quiet. Ah, yes, the Trans-Saharan Railway. It never went anywhere for obvious reasons. Pun intended? Well, I suppose you could say pun intended. Basically, it's down to what they were trying to do. Also, Jesus, I advise you to look at that map, look at the date, and then tell me what's wrong with that map. Because that map doesn't add up in multiple different ways. Yep. Why don't the French own the southern part of French Africa? Yep, that's what I'm thinking as well. It's a Kaiserreich MacGuffin. Which therefore means it's not worth twit. It's the only place you see the Trans-Saharan proposal actually be implemented in anything, is in Kaiserreich, for fairly obvious and valid reasons. Ice Turns Skyward is an interesting one. It's just, we're going to throw money at everything. And we're going to go places, because we can. And we will have 5 different bases on the moon. Because we can. It's a hilarious concept, because it's kind of, well, funny. Rough ride up there. Good lord. Ice Turns Skyward is a hell of a thing. Is that supposed to be an F-18? That's hilarious. Duplex locomotives are okay, but I've never really been that keen on them. In all honesty. Never really sat well with me. Just for a lot of various different reasons. Okay, I love that Vulcan. That is a very pretty Vulcan. Like, you could put that in an alt history bullshit timeline as a British super prop bomber, and people would believe you. They wouldn't even know it was a flipping Vulcan. Good lord. You can tell that when I'm doing ramblings by myself, they're never that good. I need a co-host to bounce off of, but never mind. A short ramblings today is probably for the best. We'll go for another hour, and then I'm probably going to call it. What would be the use of a converted Admiral-class battlecruiser? How would it compare to the battlecruiser conversion of Glorious, Furious, and Courageous? And would it be effective at all? It'd be the equivalent of vessels like Lexington. And, well, we all know how effective the Lexingtons were. You've basically got a British Lexington, which is as useful, in fact, it's much more useful than Glorious, Furious, and Courageous. It's larger, it's just as quick, carries much more aircraft, and has much more room for growth than the other ships do. Good lord. Are you really? Railroad after ramblings? We shall see. Oh no, it's Pistol Whip Drac. Now then, where did I put... Bloody hellfire! I don't think I wanted the Tandem Phantom. I don't think I needed the Tandem Phantom. In fact, I think the Tandem Phantom has ruined my life. My goodness. Tis the season. Gun Jesus. What's the most cursed real ship design? Oh, that's easy. It's USS Vesuvius, the bloody dynamite cruiser. She's exceptionally silly. Exceptionally silly. It's kind of funny just quite how silly it actually is. USS Snell's normal. You guys are stunning me into silence somehow. What's second place just behind it? tough one. HMS Captain, probably. Bloody fucking HMS Captain. Oh, great. CF-15. We know what that means. Who let Mike Sparks out of his fucking hole? Someone let Mike Sparks out of his hole. Who was it? Christ, that is a cold locomotive. That is a locomotive that I don't think will move ever again. Good lord. I don't think that We all hate the Aero, Gavin. We all hate the Aero, Gavin. We all hate the Aero, Gavin. Badum. Everyone hates the Aero, Gavin. Because, well, why wouldn't you? It's horrific, horrible, disgusting. Makes you want to lob it off the edge of a cliff. Because why wouldn't you want to lob it off the edge of a cliff? Hetzer the... Please stop. I need my sanity. It's the only thing I've... Have I heard about the Destroyermen series? Yes, I have heard about the Destroyermen series. I know a lot about the... See, now that's fine. That's just the Panzerjägerwagen, attached to all German armoured trains, a pair of them, one at either end, after 1943, owing to the increased encounters between armoured trains and enemy tanks. The Destroyermen series are a very, very nice... they're a very nice bit of fun, and I enjoy what the author's done with them. It's a great way to explore themes and what-ifs without being worried about people calling you out for historical accuracy. It's a fantastic subversion of alternate history tropes, and I love it. I also love the designs of aircraft and ships that he comes up with. While some of them might not be the most grounded things in existence, I can think of far worse concepts. Nimrod! We all love the Nimrod. Brackman asks, who was the better commander, Grand Moff Tarkin or General Grievous? And how would which would fare better if they replaced Admiral King? Tarkin. You can say what you like. You can say what you like about, I don't know. No, actually. No. Grievous. At least Grievous, despite being somewhat cruel, has some measure of military strategy. Tarkin doesn't even have that. Which, well, there you are. Yeah, it does depend on Legends or canon, but so does everything when these questions are asked. God damn it. I do love how some people come up with the strangest things in this world. Oh, the Snow Cruiser. I learned about that from a Clive Cussler novel. It's amazing what you can learn from Clive Cussler novels. Almost shocking, as a matter of fact. Yeah. The aircraft of Destroyer Men are very, very funny. Yes, it was a vehicle meant for Antarctic exploration. It actually went on an Antarctic exploration. And failed. Miserably. Almost aggressively miserably, actually. It's kind of surprising. It it really did fail spectacularly. In the most... It rolled off the ship, and then it just couldn't fucking do any of the things it was supposed to be able to do, which made it useless. Basically, they tried to drive it on the terrain it was supposed to be driven on, and it turned out to be ridiculously underpowered. Scarily underpowered, in a way. If it had the right engine, it would have been fine. How the AC1... Yeah, tyres had no traction as well. If they'd have had chonky digger tyres, it would have been better. But they didn't. So, yeah. Yeah, it's a helicopter with a howitzer in it. Because why? What were you gonna do with a helicopter? Not put a howitzer in it? What would we call that? A Churchill gun carrier 3-inch Mach 2? I mean, it's decidedly an interesting concept, but it removes the Churchill's heavily armoured turret, which is kind of the whole point of the Churchill's heavily armoured turret. Yeah, to Churchill. Black Prince would be wider. Well, I mean, I can see a potential use for it. An alternative to the Churchill gun carrier. Basically, say, what if we tried to use the Wolverine turret? I don't think it would work in the real world, but it's an interesting concept. Yeah, the barn. More like the moving tower block of Yorkshire Keys. The Great Experiment. I mean, what? It's just a bog standard Excelsior. I don't see anything wrong with it. Just an Excelsior. Just a normal bog standard Excelsior. Nothing to see here. Tonk. Tonk Destroyer. How do you fit men inside that thing? Bloody hell, lads. What is this? What is your opinion regarding AI-generated imaging and picture-creating models in the current time? I don't have an opinion. As of right now. Tri-Fire? I guess? You'd call that? The Tri-Fire fighter? Possibly? Oh. Now we've got the BF 109 tie, which is funny, but also weird. Of course Star Trek Admirals are going to create the Excelsior too. Why am I not surprised? We've got the fucking... Well, of course, we've got the, what's it called? The thing that Drac and Venom quoted in that video they did. There's the Excelsior Reformers Club. Now, all we need is an Excelsior. Just keep improving the Excelsior. Build a bigger Excelsior. Build a better Excelsior. Excelsior Mafia. There we go. Yeah, we only need Excelsiors. We don't need anything else. Just build bigger and better Excelsiors. That's all we need. Like, I served on an Excelsior and I was fine. Yeah, just build bigger and better Excelsiors. It's fine. Don't worry about it. No, we don't need Galaxy class. Just build bigger and better Excelsiors. That's all we need. And Excelsior was good enough for my son when he was captain, and now it's good enough for me when I was captain, and it's going to be good enough for you when you're captain. You are getting an Excelsior, and you will like it. And breathe. Prime member, Orc Technology. We's got the tech. Voyager, yeah, a lot of the late gen Federation ships from Discovery are just ridiculously stupid. Stupidly stupid. That's yeah, Dromaeosaurus. That's what I expected. That's about what I expected. Okay, look, nebulas are okay. They're okay. Nebulas are okay. Now everyone get a corner and twist. I still find it funny. That's just a nebula with longer nacelles and a slightly chunkier body. I hate it. It's bad. Fuck, it's the gonks. It's especially scary when you consider that the gonks are basically mobile fusion reactors. That's what a gonk is. It's a mobile fusion plant to provide power to random different things around a homestead on backwards planets. Never ending glory. It's all just Gowron. God damn it. You do have a funny. Funny it is at times. Oh dear. Extendo caravan? Coach Gowron Library Reviews Christmas Carol. A Ferengi businessman is haunted by holiday spirits who attempt to remind him he was honest. Scrooge should have slain the demons who attacked him. 3 out of 5 Katingas. Glory to Tiny Tim. fucking Gowron. Just absolute. He's both the best and worst Klingon Chancellor at the same time. Somehow. Gowron is somehow both of these things. Excuse me. Your flagship, Caboose. Since when do you have a bloody Armageddon class battle cruiser? Oh, Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2. I need to buy that. I need to buy that because I keep saying that I'm gonna do a Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 event for the community, and I keep failing to because I don't own it. Because I can't run what I don't own. Retribution. No, I've never listened to the Star Wars vs. 40k audiobook because I know who wins that. It's 40k, without a doubt. It's not even funny. There's nothing. The only advantage the Star Wars galaxy has is an ability to move around the galaxy at speed. We can do co-op campaigns for a thing. Oh, I remember those. Those are the last Mon Calamari designs towards the end of Legends recorded history. The wedges. To be fair, the battleships from Howl's Moving Castle, they're just pre-dreadnoughts. Slightly large pre-dreadnoughts, but pre-dreadnoughts nonetheless. They've got an incredibly mixed battery of guns. And it's no surprise that they come back badly battered from the action that they go out into, given the design of them. Yeah, I know, steam-powered battleship. And I don't know how that works in Star Wars, but it does, I guess. Class F shuttlecraft. It gets you there. God damn it. That's very funny. Sometimes rambling do just be this way. Hopefully I'll be in a better mood on Thursday. Fallout, you were doing fine with American Railways until Fallout 4 when you decided that you were going to build this stupid thing. And we've all still not forgiven you for it. Because it is horrendously, balls blastingly stupid. That's not a tender, that's a carriage. There's like tons of them behind it, and they all have the same bloody wheel arrangement, which makes no bloody sense. Oh, that makes sense. That's slightly better. That makes me hate it slightly less. Worst game released in the last few months? Pick a AAA title from one of the big budget developers and go with that. Or the latest Battlefield or Call of Duty. In fact, the latest Call of Duty is probably the best bet for the worst game released in the last few months. Derivative, played by twitchy fucking twits who have no idea who wouldn't know an actual fucking video game if it hit them in the head. Who just want to digest the same recycled Battle Royale shooter over and over and over again. Because they can't fathom the concept of anything outside their limited worldview of Battle Royale shooters and Call of Duty. They're not gamers. they're fucking idiots who are polluting the actual gaming culture. See, no, that's fine. Call of Duty World at War's fine. That's like the last good Call of Duty was Black Ops 2. And even then it was starting to degrade. That's funny. Oh dear. My speech last year was longer than this year's Call of Duty campaign. It's true because it's true. Even Halo, even the good games like Halo and the others are just pale shadows of what they used to be. Like, the only refuge for good quality gaming, folks, lies where we are now. In the niches we currently occupy. Simulation. Strategy. It's the only place with real, tangible investment and good quality games being produced. But even then, the hooks have started to sink in. Luckily, it hasn't flown so well, with the collapse of Creative Assembly and Total War being a good example of it. Paradox is a good example of monetization done right. And people say, oh, Fleet, how can you say that? They ask you to buy all this DLC. I say, yeah, that's true. But there's a thing to do. It's called... You only need one person to own all the DLC for a Paradox game. In order to enjoy it in multiplayer. And usually, if you play Hoi 4, you'll usually have friends who play it as well. Or EU4 or Vicky 3. Take your pick, make your mark. It's all the same to me. Which... I do. It's called... They sold out to a corporate management team. That corporate management team wanted extreme... And also people just kept... Oh wow, so Vanguard can pen... again, that's about what I expected. Last good Total War, Shogun 2, Fall of the Samurai. Which you can't play anymore, because the multiplayer no longer works, and mod support no longer works, since they put that stupid bloody launcher out, and combined all the Total War games into that launcher, breaking Steam mod support as they did so. And also breaking Steam multiplayer as they did so. You can't play Total War Shogun 2 in multiplayer anymore. Gaming is not what it used to be, my friends. Even 10 years ago it was different than it is now. It's hard to believe we're coming up on 10 years since Hoi 4 launched. It's only 3 years away, folks. It's only 3 years until it'll be a decade since Hoi 4 launched. Just think about that for a second. The most prolific Paradox game of our generation. And, yeah, 10 years of committing war crimes. "10 years of me getting my ass kicked by everybody, and not winning a single player war I've ever fought." Well, no, you will be. You will have been 3 years from now. Caboose. It was released in 2016. We're not there yet. We will be though. Motherfucker is so prolific. Ancient Race names the most powerful starship they ever build after him. Motherfucker. Just O'Neill, the wise-talking, massively cracking motherfucker, just absolutely smashing it. And here's me thinking support for Total War Shogun 2 was going to go on forever, but no. Apparently not. Apparently our luck is not that good. Yeah, Empire at War. I mean, it's the Empire at War 64-bit update that's enabled Empire at War Wednesdays to move into multiplayer. I'm running a 4-player Galactic Conquest right now. It's been great fun. Alright, we're coming into the last 15 minutes, folks. Last 15 minutes. So, if you have any more rapid-fire questions, now is your time. Please ask away. Any chance there'll be a Supreme Commander evening? Yeah, there will probably be a Supreme Commander Forged Alliance event at some point. Whether it's modded or not, I don't know, but it will probably be using Forged Alliance forever. Also, I'm playing the UEF, and I will drown you in artillery shells. Lethal Company is a little small for a Drydock event. We don't have... I also do not own Lethal Company. But yeah, for those of you who are new here, and I see that some of you have arrived new, which is always lovely to see. If you do want to catch more of these, and you do want to be informed when events happen, From the Depths is another good option. I do have that, so that's another option on the table. Did you go all the way to Railroader to just make that joke? Anyway, as I was saying, for those of you who have arrived new to Ramblings today and you want to partake in future events, and you want to make sure you don't miss out on the next community game nights and other events like it, please do make sure to go up to the Roll Center and grab yourself, at the top of the Roll Center, the stage roll section. Make sure you grab yourself Random Ramblings and Community Game Night Enjoyer to make sure you do not miss any of the future events if you found this to your liking. This has been one of the slightly less long ramblings, and there have been ones where Drakenfell has showed up. Minecraft, we had a Minecraft Drydock server, but it was... I think it still exists, actually. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask Sierra about that one. But Minecraft is definitely not my cup of tea. It's not a game that agrees with me in particular. Yeah, I saw I managed to get the Chieftain to appear on this show. Don't know how I did that. I've spoken to Rex's Hangar. I've spoken to the Shipyard. I've spoken to Brother Monroe. I've spoken to Drac more times than I can count. Laser Pig when? I don't know. Probably never. Although it would be funny. I would like to talk to the man. He's an interesting character, if nothing else. And even if he isn't quite 100% accurate in everything he says, it'd be nice to have a conversation with him. Nothing wrong with the man himself. And besides, his content is fairly harmless. As if I could get Mike Sparks on here. I mean, really. Even if I could, we'd never understand what he was saying. It probably goes something like, and the conspiracy theorists will tell you, right, that don't you know that the armor penetration on modern anti-shipping missiles is it's all fake. It's all fake. It's a conspiracy by the government and the missile manufacturers to keep the VLS tubes full. Yeah. You can't penetrate armor with missiles, guys. Yeah, no. You can't do it. No. No, it's only guns that can penetrate armor, guys. Yeah, and armor-piercing bombs, guys. This is why we need to armor our warships, guys. Like, the Chinese are making fools out of us, guys. Like, they've got armor on their ships. And, like, they've got missiles that can... And they got missiles. But, like, they know... They know that their missiles can't penetrate armor. This is why their ships have 2 guns, whereas ours only have 1. That's my best Mike Sparks impression right there for you. Fucking Mike Sparks impression. I'm sorry for putting that on all of you. Mike Sparks on the dry dock. Hey guys, I mean, they don't need to tell you this, but Sidewinder missiles, they don't work. They don't work. I tell you, they don't work. The only reason I put them on the Arrow, Gavin, was because I couldn't put guns on there. You know, I couldn't put guns on the Arrow, Gavin, so I had to put some bad Sidewinders on it. You know, I had to do it. I mean, if I could have, I would have put a 90 mil on there, because we all know that the 105 and the 120, they're no good. They're no good, guys. I mean, we've got the secret government documents that say that the 105 and the 120 are just that we actually have on our tanks are not the real guns. The real guns were tested and then buried. What we've actually got on our tanks today is 90mm guns, just shrouded, guys. And like the Russian 125, though, that's a great gun. That's better than anything we have. Like, we need to really be copying Russian 125s, guys. Like that's what we need. Yeah. Fuck, I don't... Mike Sparks impression. I should probably do a bit on that and stop. Maybe I should start putting shorts on my channel. Mike Sparks rambles. That'd be funny. People would watch that. Good lord. Good lord. That's actually taken all of my creative energy to do those 2 Mike Sparks bits, and now I don't know what to do next. Oh, good lord. Well, my favourite song? I don't really have a favourite song. I've never had a favourite song, if I'm going to be honest. Throughout my entire life, I just listened to whatever I listened to at that particular time, with no real preference either way. But if I had to pick, I'm fond of chill, so I do like what's it called? Miss Magic by Strawberry Man. That's a good song. Nice and chill. Proper relaxing. Makes me just sit down and chill. Anyone else got any final questions before we wrap this up for today? Apologies for 2 short ramblings in a row, but for 2 weeks in a row I've had no co-hosts. And I'm not good at this just by myself, because unlike Drac, I don't have a massive wealth of knowledge to ramble off topic on when it comes to naval history. This is the difference between me and Drac. I need other people to bounce off of in order to keep a ramblings going. Either that or I have to have a laser-focused topic to talk about. I mean, I've got a small library, but nothing overly major. This is last orders, please. Last questions, please. I would do, but you're working. And besides, I'm saving my ramblings call-outs for Caboose until the Red Fleet timeline is ready for its final reveal. And that's coming next year. Hope you're all ready for that. The final edition of the Red Fleet timeline. Recorded on YouTube with images and everything. The Red Fleet timeline is an alternate history timeline created by myself, Capitano Caboose, the Random Idiot, and Sea Dodders, and it posits a timeline in which the Red Navy embarked on a capital ship construction program after the Second World War, based on the premise that Sovietsky Soyuz was far more complete before the Second World War started. If you want to do that, but this also fires off a massive chain of events around the rest of the world, which leads to a massive divergence in naval construction across the planet. But I'll not spoil it if you haven't seen it, because the final of that is coming with Sea Dodders. How far does this go? All the way up to the 2010s when it ends. Runs from 1948 to 2010. We're currently working on getting the images for all the vessels. Which Sea Dodders is lovingly creating, as he always does. And when that is created, where can I watch it? It's not been created yet. This is why we're making... There have been 4 separate ramblings involving the Red Fleet timeline. But none of them were recorded. This one will be, with proper images going up on YouTube. I plan to have it be my return to video creation as opposed to live streaming. Oh yes, the naval aviation was quite interesting. But we've tried not to touch too much on the Soviet side of it, but we may actually do that this time, seeing as we're doing a proper dive into it. But like I say, it's... Vanguard ends the Red Fleet timeline not looking like that, because that is silly. No, the premise is not that aircraft carriers don't become the new capital ship. Like I say, I'm not going to spoil too much, because, again, that is a video and a ramblings that's coming later down the line. But again, I'm not going to spoil much more than that, because it seems like we've got a new crop of people who don't know what the Red Fleet timeline is about. And, again, in order to do that video, I need all of the people present for it. So I need at least Sea Dodders and the Random Idiot here. And ideally, I need Sea Dodders, Caboose, and the Random Idiot plus myself here. Like I say, it will be a fairly long and complicated timeline, and it's probably not going to come out till sometime in the middle of next year, because we are still working out. We're still working out a good deal of additional information for the timeline, seeing as we know what happens in it, but we want to detail it, and we want to fully craft it. We want to close off any missing links. We want to remove some things that were slightly silly and replace them with slightly more, only slightly, more concrete and believable circumstances. An example here would be, I can say this because it's not a spoiler, the removal of Rebuild Nagato from the timeline. Dragged out from her resting place at Bikini Atoll and rebuilt. We've removed that from the timeline, I can say that now. She's been replaced by something else. Shizoners is, of course, away doing what he gets paid for. So he's temporarily he's unavailable, although he is still creating warships, which is a good thing. It is one of the advantages of him being away. He is able to plow through a large amount of warship construction. No, there will still be nutty things. We've only trimmed down certain things that didn't make quite a bit so much sense. Oh, it'll be pre-forecast. Don't worry. And like I say, if you want to make sure you don't miss it, be sure to, like I said, I think I posted a link to the rolls, but just in case I may have forgotten, but yeah, if you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure you hop up to the roll center and grab yourself the Fleet's Random Rambling roll to make sure you don't miss the Red Fleet timeline live when it comes out. Sure, you can share the Japanese carrier as a teaser. This is the Japanese fleet carrier constructed in the late 60s, coming into service in the early 70s. One Cenonis posts it. Now, I can't share the why of this vessel without spoiling too much else. But suffice to say, her bridge structure should give an indication of exactly what vessel she is. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the actor formerly known as USS Enterprise, CV6. She wasn't sold for scrap in this timeline, but was instead sold to the Japanese. Was basically gutted down to the frames and then rebuilt over a 10-year period. I think she's either that or she's an Essex. I can't remember which. She's either Enterprise or she's an Essex. I can't remember which it is. We haven't quite locked that in yet. But it's either CV6 herself or it's an Essex. Either way, the carrier is gutted down to nearly the waterline and rebuilt. Yeah, it is Enterprise then. Yeah, it's CV6. She's CV6. But no more spoilers apart from that. I can't tell you why the Japanese have been given Enterprise to rebuild over a 10-year period, from the 1960 to about 1968. I also can't tell you the deal with any other vessels involved. I also can't tell you anything apart from the set-off, which is... apart from the set-off for the timeline, which is a more complete Sovietsky Soyuz when World War II breaks out, and Graf Zeppelin being transferred in nearly complete condition to the USSR. ladies and gentlemen, unless anyone has one final question for me, that is all for Red Fleet Time. That is all for, not Red Fleet Timeline, sorry. That is all for the ramblings today. I hope you have enjoyed yourself, and I hope that I will see a lot or some of you. I do not like waffles. I will hopefully see you all on Thursday for Fleet's birthday ramblings. So I look forward to seeing some or all of you on Thursday for Fleet's birthday ramblings, which is a special ramblings I do for my birthday every year. And I hope you all come down for that.